Well, look, a very good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming along here this morning. It's a real pleasure to be able to announce that we have today released our consultation document in regards to the Emissions Reduction Plan 2. This is a significant document which outlines the draft policies that this coalition government will undertake between 2026 and 2030. In order to meet our emissions budget. What is clear from the analysis that we're releasing today and the modelling that's been undertaken is that this coalition government have got a plan that is on track in order to meet both the emission budget 1 and emissions budget 2. It is also outlines forecasts in regards to later budgeting periods. The methodology changes that have been made in regards to the overarching modelling are significant. There has been a number of changes that have been flowed through. To give you some context of some of those methodological changes, the fact that Tiwai Point, the aluminium smelter, is remaining in New Zealand, has a 5 megatonne differential in the EB2 period alone. And when you look out with that margin of error, that is just one example of the scale of methodological changes. We have also reflected the policy changes that we have stopped, that we inherited from the prior government. We've added in new policy initiatives that we are going to be undertaking. In particular, our focus around doubling renewable energy, the investment in technology and innovation in the agricultural sector. We've also included tables which provide preliminary forecasting advice in regards to later periods as well, and also a number of initiatives, particularly in the agriculture and forestry space that we are working on at the moment that will have potentially significant implications in terms of emissions reductions in both periods. I want to acknowledge all of the officials that have played a role in terms of the preparation of this report. It has been a significant piece of work. As a coalition government, we are committed to the targets. We have prime ministerial targets, both in regards to emissions budget 1 and 2. This plan shows that we are on track in order to meet those budgets. We are committed to the overarching targets and we are working very hard in regards to ensuring that we are moving from talk to action. This is the critical decade for delivery. This coalition government understands the need for action in climate change. This is a coalition government that is committed to making the changes required and we'll be working through those actions, particularly around the renewable energy space in the coming months, and we've already made announcements in regards to that also. With that, be happy to take questions in regards to the plan that we've released.
Is the government no longer on track to meet its third emission budget, and why is that?
So the emissions budget 3, as outlined in the plan, is showing that we are not on track in regards to that. There is a significant margin of error in regards to emissions budget 3, and as I've highlighted, we have outlined a number of pathways that we have not modelled through that will have upside emissions reductions, including and actually in substance in the EB3 period. And that's the work that we'll be working through. But what is clear from our plan is that we are on track and on budget for EB1 and EB2, and this is a government that's been in play for 8 months. My primary focus is to ensure that we've got a clear plan to meet those 2 immediate targets. We've done that, and our focus will continue to make sure that we are delivering.
And for agriculture, the plan says that the most impactful solutions, such as methane inhibitors and vaccines, are still in the early stages of research. What is the contingency plan if these don't work?
Look, it's very clear that we're taking a technology-led approach in regards to emissions reduction in agriculture. What we've highlighted as part of this plan, and it's open for consultation, so obviously we will be seeking feedback in regards to that when we finalise at the end of the year. But there are a number of significant opportunities in the agricultural space to reduce emissions. We've got examples of what they could preliminarily look like, and we're also have made announcements in regards to significant investment in terms of research and development and innovation in that sector. What is clear is that farmers need the tools in order to be able to reduce their emissions. Simply implementing a pricing regime without those tools is not a feasible mechanism to help our agricultural sector, which is a backbone of this economy.
And you talked about technology. Do you think we're relying too heavily on technology that doesn't exist yet to meet those
Look, this government backs New Zealanders to be able to come up with innovation and solutions to the problems that we face, particularly in the area of climate change. Agricultural innovation is one of our strengths as a country. We've done it before, we can do it again, and what we've seen in regards to the emissions pathway options in this plan is that there are a number of aspects around research and development that are already in the early phases of deployment, and if even one of those comes off, as noted in the plan, that will realise significant emissions reductions. We need to stay focused around looking for the technological solution option. We need a breakthrough, and we're investing to ensure that that will be the case.
What's the net effect on the emissions expected over the next 10, 15 years from the policies that the coalition government has already brought into place? I.e., has it made the projection better or worse?
So the impact of in emissions budget 2 period is in the region of 4.1 megatons of emission reduction as a result of the policies that this government have implemented. We've got indicative numbers in regards to the emissions budget 3 period. We've also included the net impact in terms of the numbers that we've, or the emissions impact of the initiatives that we have stopped from the prior government. It is, to be clear, in terms of the overarching projections, about 1/3 of the projections is accounted for in regards to pathway changes that I've just highlighted. There are other significant changes, such as the methodological changes, such as TY point, for example, now being in and staying in New Zealand, which have quite a material impact in the overarching projections. So only 1/3 of the change in the projections as a result of government policy.
Why isn't there anything in this plan on housing and energy efficiency?
So we've highlighted in the plan in regards to our support for green building certification. We've highlighted that that is an opportunity area for the sector to work through. Minister Chris Hipkins, who's building and construction, and I have discussed in terms of the opportunities within that sector. We've narrowed in and focused on the key drivers of emissions within this plan. We've looked at the big dots that achieve that. That's not saying that there aren't benefits from building construction. Of course there are. But we've also highlighted in terms of our forestry sector around wood products, and we've put some context around some policy changes that we're looking to do there, which also recognise that there is embedded carbon within wood products, and we should be looking at opportunities to recognise that as well.
Why has this draft plan been released before tabling the Climate Commission's reduction monitoring report?
The statutory requirement is for us to consult on the emissions reduction plan. We're doing that. We need to consult on that work, and that period of consultation will be in the next 6 weeks. We'll take on board all of the feedback that we receive from the Climate Change Commission and other stakeholders through this period of this year, and when we look to finalise this plan at the end of the year, we'll take all of that information into account.
How much of the expected reductions come from technologies that are not tested and developed and running yet? So that includes carbon capture, the agricultural stuff.
So the carbon capture examples in the range of 1.4 megatonne in the EB2 period, increasing to around 5 megatons in the EB3 period. In regards to the agricultural assumptions around methane inhibitors or other aspects, they are included in a separate table that we have not included as part of the overarching modelling, acknowledging the fact that some of those aspects still need more work, but it is our intention that obviously through the period of the remainder of this year that we'll be able to firm up some of that preliminary modelling to be able to provide some more indicative indications by the end of the year.
And how much of the forecast track depends on planting pine forests, which could only ever be a one-off because it can't be repeated?
Well, look, we've assumed in terms of the profile of planting, we know that the overall planting in the last 2 years has slowed considerably. We have put in place within our policy document some options around natives and afforestation in regards to that area. Don't forget our climate strategy that we released last week included nature-based solutions, and again, a clear signal from this coalition government that we are looking at those type of solutions. If it removes carbon, then we should be looking at the opportunities to leverage that more. So in regards to forestry, we are opening up the conversation more so around looking at alternative options in addition to exotics, but that is an opportunity for us to work through.
So would that mean you have to change the way natives are assessed in the emissions trading scheme to make it more attractive to plant them?
Look, it's one of the areas that we're open to feedback on. We've got it included within this consultation document. There's a lot of feedback from industry players and the sector around the opportunities in this space. New Zealand is blessed with significant forests and fauna, and the opportunity there around increasing biodiversity and having a positive implication in regards to climate and emissions reduction is something that we're open to looking at. Obviously there's a lot of work that needs to go through in that space, but we have signalled it clearly in this document that we are open to that conversation.
But isn't planting forests simply a way to avoid producing ongoing emissions now, transport, industrial?
Look, we've been very clear in our consultation document that we're undertaking a net-based strategy. It's net zero by 2050. That includes both gross emissions reductions and removals, and forestry is one of those removal options. What I'm saying to you is that we're broadening that removal option to also consider the native afforestation component, which again, as we move forward in terms of EB3 and EB4, provides us with an opportunity to get more diversity in that space.
How much are we going to miss our Paris Agreement?
So in regards to 2050, currently the forecasting shows us that we're 3 megatonne off in terms of achieving that. But that's as of 2042. Obviously, the curve shows about a range of 3 to 5 megatonnes from 242 out to 250. To put that in context, as I said, the TY point staying in place in New Zealand is 5 megatonne for the period of 2026 to 2030 alone. The margin of error at that point, we're talking 25 years from now, is plus or minus 10. And the longer one forecasts out, the higher the degree of margin of error. But we're not talking a significant point of difference in regards to how we're tracking. There's a lot of water to go under the bridge between now and then, and I can tell you what this government is committed to achieving those targets, and we'll do what we need to do.
Because it says in the document that you currently have a gap of 101 million tonnes between 2021 and 2030.
So you're referring to the 2030 target for NDC. What I was referring to.
Isn't that the one that matters if you're a farmer in Europe or UK and you want to keep New Zealand out of the free trade agreement?
Well, look, all of our targets that we have signed up to matter, and all of the actions that we need to deliver as a country matter. The target in regards to NDC at 2030 is a significant challenge. We have inherited that from the prior government. We've got a gap which we've outlined in regards to this plan that we need to close. That is a significant challenge. The government are aware of that. We're committed to our targets, and we will be working through the action plan required in order to achieve that for the remainder of the year. But our focus initially is doing everything we can to do domestically. And this plan outlines the domestic actions that we're focused on.
But if you don't get the targets by 2030, you're going to have to buy 100 million tonnes worth of credits, which Treasury says could cost up to $24 billion. Are you comfortable going to Cabinet and asking for $24 billion to buy international credits so that we can keep our free trade agreements with the UK and Europe?
Look, there's a number of hypothetical scenarios in regards to how we meet the 2030 NDC target. Let's be clear, we've inherited a significant challenge from the last Labour Greens government in regards to meeting that challenge. We are 78 months away from there. We are working very hard in regards to what options are available in order to achieve that target. Our initial focus is doing everything we can domestically, and I'll be working through with Cabinet in the coming months in regards to what are our options in order to achieve that international target.
What is the point of having a draft plan that relies so heavily on ETS, but with no policy proposals on how to make ETS credible?
Well, that's just simply not the case. There's a chapter on the ETS, and we've released a strategy last week, which pillar 2 of that strategy is credible markets. So we have got clear articulation in regards to what we want to do in regards to ensuring that we have got credible ETS markets. The ETS does the heavy lifting in regards to emissions reduction in this country, but this coalition government are also open to complementary gross emissions reduction policies. We've got detail within our consultation plan around that as well. It's both aspects that need to be in play in order to hit our targets. And in regards to the ETS in particular, we'll be looking at market governance as one of the initiatives that we'll be moving on immediately. We've also got the unit settings consultation, which is currently out for consultation and feedback. We'll be making decisions on that within the months to come, and both of those factors will increase and support the credibility of the ETS.
I just want to jump back to forestry. Do you really think we have enough suitable land for all these trees?
The analysis in regards to potential options for planting of more trees is something that will be done across a number of ministers. In particular, Minister Macleay is the forestry minister and others related to that. We are working through advice at the moment in regards to opportunities around land that is currently held by the Crown that is not productive or not suitable for productive agricultural use, i.e. suitable for forestry, and we'll be working through that analysis for the rest of this period.
What incentives would there be for private companies to help the government plant native forests?
Well, look, what is clear is that in order to meet our emissions reduction targets, we need everyone within our economy and our society to play their part. And the opportunity in regards to forestry, whether that's exotics or afforestation of natives, involving the private sector is a real opportunity. We need private capital in order to support the emissions reductions that we need to undertake. It can't all be funded through the Crown balance sheet. And we will be open to any opportunity in regards to working with other stakeholders, including iwi Māori as well, which is a significant opportunity in order to hit those targets.
How credible is it that you're relying so much on forests when you're planning a 3-year moratorium on converting farmland into forests?
So we're currently working through the land use class changes that we highlighted and discussed coming into the election around the challenges and the problems around forestry being planted on productive farmland. We agree that that is a concern, and Minister Macleay and I are working through that at the moment. In regards to how far that goes and to what extent we're getting advice around that and what implications that has on the overarching ETS as well, we'll be able to provide more update on that in the coming months. But it is an area of priority for us as a policy, and it is something that we're working through at the moment.
Is the government expecting Treasury, now that we're just 6 years away and we have a potential $24 billion liability, expecting Treasury to actually book this liability as a contingent liability in the Crown accounts, which would then force the government to try to reduce that liability?
Look, what is clear is that we have inherited a significant challenge in regards to meeting our NDC target. Treasury were asked for advice in regards to the recognition of that liability by Minister Willis and I earlier this year when we came into government, reassessing the analysis that was requested by the prior government in regards to that question. The advice clearly to us is that there isn't sufficient information at this point in order for that liability to be booked. Because there is a number of variables at play in regards to meeting that objective and how you would go about that. Is something that we will continue to monitor, but what we are focused on is we need to be focused on the actions required in order to reduce emissions, and that's what is included within this plan. Primarily the domestic actions that we have full control over, and the key for us is to ensure that we're actually making that a reality and turning that from words on a page into action, and that's what we're focused on.
Are the policies the government implementing on things like transport and housing, are they making assessments of how those policies worsen that liability? Because the government's increasing expenditure on motorways, reducing investment relative to previous forecasts of public transport, it is increasing speeds of cars, which increase emissions. It is reducing the number of EVs coming in. It is weakening the emissions standards, collectively, according to these documents, by 2030, your policies have worsened the deficit by 20 million tonnes, and you've increased the potential liability by close to $5 billion. How are you measuring, policy by policy, what's happening to that liability?
Look, there's a number of assumptions in that question, but what I can say is the answer to the first question which is in regards to how are different ministers considering the impacts of climate within their overarching policy positions, and I can say they are. Minister Brown, for example, and I have met a number of times in regards to the drafting of the transport and energy components of this consultation agreement. The same with Minister Macleay in regards to forestry and agriculture. Everything's connected, and the components in regards to the changes in regards to infrastructure or housing investment will have an implication in regards to the climate. They'll also have a significant implication on many other economic or societal factors within our broader economy. In addition to that, I also sit on the broader RMA Reform Ministerial Advisory Group, which is looking at the RMA reform proposed changes. I look on that and I put feedback in regards to that, in regards to climate considerations. But we've got a number of challenges that we've inherited from the prior government that we need to fix. And this economy and the state of play is in a pretty fragile situation at the moment. We've got a number of big things that we need to get resolved, and we're working damn hard at making sure that we can do that as fast as possible. But I'm confident that we've got a credible consultation plan here. Once we get feedback back from the stakeholders and public, we'll make sure that we've got a strong plan to be able to take us forward from the end of this year.
Just back on ETS, how is the government going to ensure that ETS is tight enough to carry the loads of the emissions reduction plan without heaping costs onto the industry?
Well, as I've said, the ETS is critical in terms of the emissions reduction processes and the targets that we've set. We want to ensure that we've got a credible ETS market. We've got a number of initiatives that we're highlighting within this consultation agreement, which we are looking to do, including market governance. But the ETS is not the sole mechanism in order to reduce emissions in our economy. We are clear that there needs to be and there will be complementary policies, particularly in areas where the ETS isn't covering that, and so agriculture is a good example of that, and we'll be working through that. But the key issue for the ETS market is to have a clear line of sight in terms of future government policy. Well, that's what's outlined in this document. Stability in terms of government policy, so not jumping around and making changes all the time, which again we've been very clear we're not going to make significant changes to the ETS. And so that combination of stability and clear policy forward look should provide a degree of certainty to the market in addition to the initiatives we're planning for the rest of the year.
What's more important for the government, making sure the economy recovers and grows faster, or reducing emissions by 2030?
Look, the reality is that we need to achieve both. We need to be able to achieve economic growth and prosperity, and we need to be able to meet our committed targets that we have signed up to. It is absolutely possible for us to achieve both. It's not one or the other. And we have a number of economic, a number of societal, and a number of climate challenges in our society. We need to get the balance to ensure that we meet those commitments, and it is possible to find a pathway through that allows us to be able to achieve both of those. The pathways within this plan show that that is possible in regards to emissions budget 1 and 2, and that's the trajectory that we're following.
Minister, what are the consequences of missing our third emission budget as it's been predicted?
Well, look, as I said, that is a period that's in the future. We've highlighted in terms of some of the modelling changes in regards to that EB3 budget. We'll be making sure that everything we do needs to set ourselves up for success in regards to that. But what is clear is that if we do nothing, then we're going to have a situation where we're not going to meet the targets. So the pathways outlined within this document outline the clear actions that we will take and will take in the next 4 years in order to get us on the pathway that we need to meet.
Did the government make wrong decisions binning so many of the previous government's climate policies now that we're going to miss this third target?
No, I don't think we did, and it's outlined in terms of what the implications of those decisions are in this document for transparency. a number of those initiatives we're not going to provide significant emissions reduction but came at high cost. We've supplemented that, and we were very clear at the election campaign. We are committed to the target, but how we will achieve the target is going to be different from the Labour and Greens government of the past. And we've outlined a plan and a policy and a pathway that will achieve both of those two domestic budgets between now and 2030. And now the challenge is to finalise that plan and get on and do the doing and make that a reality.
By forecasting that you're going to miss the third target and that you're currently on track to miss the Paris agreements, are you not only breaking the law but also putting in danger our export future?
Absolutely not. I mean, as I outlined before, in regards to the 2050 target, we are 3 megatonne off, and the margin of error at that period of forecasting is plus or minus 10. There is a significant number of pathways that we've got in our document in regards to forestry and agriculture and other components that will play its part. We're looking 25 years out from now, and with that degree of margin of error, we remain confident and committed in order to hitting that target. And within this document, we've outlined also the changes that we're making in regards to the emissions budget 1, which is seeking feedback around that to ensure that there's transparency in terms of the changes we've made.
Also, you mentioned you wanted to get some market function back into the ETS. How credible is that when so far the auctions under this government have failed? And talking to market players, they don't think there's any credibility in the ETS, particularly when both sides of government act to stop the price rising too much whenever the actual market mechanism works.
Well, look, it's for the ETS to price emissions. It's not for government to get involved in regards to that pricing point.
You can get in there to make sure that prices don't.
Well, I think what we saw from the last government is when the government tries to manage a market, then that doesn't go well, because the significant volatility that came as a result of policy positions around whether forestry was in or out of the ETS had significant consequences in regards to price. What we've said very clearly is that we want a stable and credible ETS market. We're having a stable and credible and practical policy platform that we'll be adopting in order to achieve that. Forestry is absolutely part of the ETS and will remain part of that. And we've got a number of other elements within this discussion document which build on the fact that we need a credible ETS market. Feedback that I'm receiving back from the market is actually, if we ensure that we continue to provide that degree of stability and certainty, then that is a positive aspect in regards to the overarching market, and that's where we'll stay.
You say you want stability and certainty, but for the agriculture sector, they're just kind of waiting on this research and development, and they currently don't have an emissions scheme. What's the plan? Is that not confusing for the agriculture sector?
Look, we've been very clear in regards to our agricultural emissions that we will be implementing pricing by 2030. We're putting in place a pastoral group which is going to be in play this year. We'll be looking at putting in place a pricing panel to start working on what the structure of that pricing mechanism will look like. But importantly, we need to provide farmers with the tools to reduce emissions. And the investment in regards to the 400 million around research and development is something that we've committed to and supporting that. I'm confident in our farmers that we are going to be able to work through and find the innovative solutions around emissions reduction, particularly for livestock. We've also signalled some of the areas of opportunity in our document where that will come from, and I'm confident in Kiwis to be able to achieve that.